Arif Saab is MPhil Political Science. He is NET. He is SET. He has teaching experience of 3 years at Gurukul University, Western UP, Saharanpur. He has also worked as resource person in Nepal University Village in Nepal under the aegis of SARC. Currently, he is working as Patwari in Revenue Department. Before we start, let us know what this Lysum study group is. Arif sir, tell us about this.
Yeah, it's very good to be here. First, I would like to begin with that. It's very good to be here after 3 years, especially in a library. Library is the best place to sit in because it is a founding stone of intellectual discourse. I must begin with a disclaimer. I must begin with a disclaimer that the views expressed here for your audience, the views are personal and have nothing to do with my official position. The views are expressed while exercising Article 19 of the Republican Constitution, which talks about freedom of speech and expression. And the views are also expressed, being a student, the views are also expressed with the intention of enduring research and more, learning in the field of literature. You talk about Lyceum, yeah, I will say, sir, Lyceum, as you know, that it was working for last 6 7 years randomly. Now we have a place in the Kishtwar where we have set up in organizational way a Lyceum study group. Lyceum was a school set up by Aristotle in Athens. In Athens, it was a school in a place called Stagira, where which paved the way of a philosophical discourse. Aristotle being a student of Plato, you know that, and Aristotle was learning under Plato in an academy. But due to one or other reasons, Aristotle came out of academy after the death of Plato, and he set up his own school of philosophy called Lyceum. Here, what is the purpose of Lyceum? Like you and all other audience here, the Lyceumers, we believe that there must be a sitting place of discussion, a sitting place of learning to analyze all narratives and meta narratives, to work for excellence in all spheres of individual as well as collective spheres. It is also one of the fundamental duty for that purpose mentioned in Article 51 of the Indian Constitution, to work for the spirit of common brotherhood, inquiry, scientific temper. So it is very much the what the Lyceum stands for. Book reviews of various big reference books is also within the ambit of Lyceum core values.
Since today we are having book review of a book called Clash of Civilization by Huntington. As Henry Kissinger once said that this is the most controversial piece of literature ever written in the post-Cold War era. Give us the understanding. What does this mean? After reading this book, what did you deduce out of it?
Yeah, Clash of Civilization is one of the best book of literature which I read. This is the book, The Clash of Civilization, written by Samuel P. Huntington. I would like to say that, yeah, you mentioned about Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger was the very great author also, in fact, a statesman in American politics. He said that it is one of the most controversial piece of literature ever written in post-Cold War era. I would like to say the context when it was written. Initially, Huntington do not go for writing a book. He wrote a research journal in Foreign Affairs, a research journal, a paper in a Foreign Affairs in 1993, and where he talks about the clash of civilizations. Later on, this received that much, appraisal and that much prestige. He converted that paper into full book. Initially, when it was written, the title was only Clash of Civilization with a question mark in the research paper. Later on, the question mark was removed, and this book was produced with the title The Clash of Civilization and Remapping of World Order. I would like to draw your kind attention towards the era of Second World War, because there was one political philosopher, George Kennan. This book is considered akin to Cannon's literature book, a piece of literature Cannon wrote, X Journal, with the name of X. When the Cold War was about, the Second World War is about to end, and people were celebrating that there is a very optimistic future and people were saying that there is a new world order. Roosevelt said that we have a new world order. But by then, George Kennan wrote a research paper called with the title X, said that there is an Iron Curtain, which is an evil regime, Soviet Union. He was referring about Soviet Union, and it is said that that paper paved the way for Cold War, and that was the most controversial paper. Akin to that paper, this is also called another controversial book after the end of Cold War, because people were also celebrating, like people were celebrating after the end of Second World War, that there is a new world order. People were celebrating that the end of Cold War, there was some persons, the context in which it was written, the context was Mr. Fukuyama came with the end of history and last man to survive. That was one model. Other model was brought by Daniel Bell, end of ideology, that communism, capitalism, which has so far divided the world into two antagonistic blocks. Communism ended, and there will be a victory of democratic values, victory of Western universal liberal democratic values. So you say it is the end of ideology. At the same time, Anthony Giddens, although there were some other scholars also, but Anthony Giddens came with the model called LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization of the world. At the same time, George Bush Sr., the father of this American president, gave a famous speech. Gave a famous speech of new world order, that we are all rich and superpowers and smaller powers and middle powers will come together, and they will make a futuristic world is happy, world is good. In the height of optimism, Mr. Huntington came and he shook the whole world by saying this, that everything is not okay. Everything is not going to be, happen to be good. He said that ideological war ended. Cold War has gone. But the remnants, the alternative to the ideological war in the future world will be the civilizational wars. His very famous quote in the book's fourth chapter is, the fault lines of civilizations of today will be the better lines of the future. So, as you said that this was an introduction of the book, and as promised, we will begin with the review of the book. This book is written. It is of having five chapters. Five chapters. The beginning, the first chapter is the world of civilization, and today, because it is the first of its lecture series, we will confine ourselves with the first chapter only. And the title of first chapter is World of Civilization. The title of second chapter is Shifting Balance of Civilizations. Third chapter is Emerging Order of Civilizations. Fourth chapter is The Clash of Civilizations. And fifth chapter is The Future of Civilizations. Let me give a kind of prelude. Let me give a kind of miniature introduction. This book is written not with this objective intention. This is very subjective intention. I told you initially also in a conversation that this book was not written with this intention that, look, we must save the world from civilizations. Huntington is saying that civilizational wars are there, they are threat to the world peace, but major civilization should win so that the world peace can be maintained. It was initially a kind of warning to the American foreign policy that don't sleep after defeat of communism. You have to defeat so many other rivals you defeated them in the arena of ideology. Now let's defeat them in the arena of civilization. So that was the intention, crystal and clear. Second thing, it was also realist doctrine. Huntington never rejected that state is not the main actor. It was an assault to the idealism also. It's in the idealistic world, like the Wilsonian idealism, starting from Woodrow Wilson, World War First is fought to end all wars, Roosevelt's idealism, and so many other host of idealists, international political scholars. They said that world is good, world is nice, there should be world state, and all the rich and poor countries are together. It said that no, there is no scope of world government. State, nation state, child of Treaty of Westphalia, will become and will remain a major actor, but its spectrum will be civilizational. Its spectrum will be civilization. Mr. Shoaib, I must say this book began with a very poetic way. It began in a very poetic way, and when it began, it will capture your अटेंशन एंड काफी एक शायराना अंदाज में शुरू किया है। और जब ये इसका इंट्रोडक्शन में पढ़ता हूं, इंट्रोडक्शन में फ्लैग्स एंड कल्चरल आइडेंटिटीज की बात कर रहा है ये, द फ्लैग्स एंड कल्चरल आइडेंटिटीज। यहां पर एक उर्दू का एक जबरदस्त शायर है फैज अहमद फैज। जिस तरह फैज अहमद फैज का एक शेर में पढ़ूंगा तो मैं आपको ये इंट्रोडक्शन है सर, आई हैव हाईलाइटेड द इंट्रोडक्शन। आप खुद देखेंगे कि उसी नहज पे एक बड़ा शायराना अंदाज में हंटिंगटन ने शुरू किया है। फेज का एक शेर है, जब अर्ज खुदा के काबे से, इट मींस कॉरिडोर्स अपार। मेटाफोरिकल शायरी होती है, लिटरल वे में तो ऑब्वियसली पोइट्री को कभी लिया नहीं जा सकता, इसके मफहूम से हम रसाई नहीं हासिल कर सकते। जब अर्ज खुदा के काबे से सब बुत गिराए जाएंगे, कॉरिडोर्स ऑफ पावर विल बी रिप्लेस्ड, वन हेजमून विल बी रिप्लेस्ड बाय अनदर हेजमून है। हम अहले सफा मरदूद हरम, दोज हु वर काउंटर रेवोल्यूशनरी फोर्सेस, दोज हु वर डिथ्रोन्ड सो फार बाय द सोसाइटी, हम अहले सफा मरदूद हरम मसनद पे बिठाए जाएंगे, द पावर विल बी गिवन टू देम। ओके, सब तख्त उछाले जाएंगे, ये देख लीजिएगा, जब सब तख्त उछाले जाने की बात कर रहा है, सब ताज गिराए जाएंगे। एंड let me read just one few lines of the introduction, which is very poetic, of Clash of Civilization. On 3rd of January 1992, a meeting of Russian and American scholars, you understand, just Cold War have ended, 1993. Yes, a meeting of Russian and American scholars took place in an auditorium of a government building in Moscow. Where in Moscow? Okay. 2 weeks earlier, the Soviet Union has ceased to exist.
Yeah.
It's so
no more
poetic.
USSR, it is right.
The Soviet Union has ceased to exist and Russian Federation has become an independent country. As a result, the statue of Lenin was a symbolic representation of October Revolution 1917. The statue of Lenin, जब सब तख्त गिराए जाएंगे, the statue of Lenin, which previously graced the stage of auditorium, has been disappeared, and instead the flag of Russian Federation was now displayed on the front wall. That is how the book began. Then the book discusses in it the era of world politics. The book discusses, look, obviously the war of ideology has ended. The war which was fought on some hegemony and the propaganda values have ended, Cold War have ended. But now he is using the term Weltanschauung. Weltanschauung is a German term which stands for worldview. Weltanschauung. I hope I have pronounced it properly. He said that Weltanschauung has been developed, the worldview has been developed in a way that people, look, there was a model of modernization. Modernization stands for that the more people will get modern, the more cultural affinities will be lessened. They will fade away. But this project of modernization failed. And Huntington is saying that Weltanschauung or worldview is developing, that people are getting affinity towards its culture. At the national level, ethnicity has replaced. At the international level, from Huntington's point of view, that civilizations have replaced the ideologies. Ethnicity and sub-national loyalties, sub-territorial loyalties have resurfaced their resurgence. The very important point he's saying that there can be no two true friends without true enemies. He's now building. He's building the grounds. Unless we hate what we are not, we cannot love what we are. Unless we hate what we are not, we cannot love what we are. Now he is building how we versus they is being developed. And the ethnic grounds are being developed and cultural affinities will be developed in the world. He is predicting a future. That there will be a discourse that who are we is not that much important. Who we are not is more important, so that we have to create a they. We have to create enemies, constructed enemies. This is just like what is Occident? Occident is what Orient is not. Edward Said. What is North? North is what South is not. Okay. What is East? East is what West is not. And West is what is glorious, what is progressive, what is so good, and what is East? East is regressive, East is backward. What is Orient? Orient is slavish, backward, nonsense, or what Rudyard Kipling, he's quoting Rudyard Kipling, white man's burden. And what is Occident? Occident is innovative, research, developed, and the people who are whatever positive in the world stays to them. And this is how the people will begin in the national level, in the subnational level, and the same kind of tendencies will be applied to the international level on the verge of civilizations. Huntington is saying that history of the world is the history of civilizational wars. Now he's building theories that even from ancient Spartans, when they defeated Athenians in the Peloponnesian War, it was very much civilizational in nature. So there will be, now look what I was saying, for people seeking identities and reinventing ethnicities, enemies are essential.
मतलब
Enemies are essential. What is, for example, what is, I will give you example to below level, what are Gujars? Gujars are, but Pahadis are not. So this is how you have to create an enemies to give a kind of civilizational discourse. Okay, and he is saying that there was a multipolar world. Obviously, 15th century onwards, there are so many global powers. Britain, France, Austria, Prussia, Germany, United States, till the First World War. After First World War, there were emerging two powers. After Second World War, there were visible two powers. After the end of Cold War, people were celebrating end of history and like that, but he's saying that they are resurfacing the multipolar, multi-civilizational world. Because he's here also talking about that there are so many cultures who are surfacing their heads, and they were, for example, in Russia, so many Slavic people, Yugoslavia come out of the Russia because of the cultural wars. Czechoslovakia come out of the Russia because of the cultural wars. Okay, so they were submerged, they were suppressed. Now they are resurfacing their heads. Then they will very much. The tools are religion, culture, attitudes, affinities. They all tools will be used to prove the war of civilizations. Okay, sir. And this is the graph where he is building his theory from 20s. What was the West and rest? This is in Cold War era. He is talking about three world typology. First world headed by America. Second world is called communist world, and third world. Look, even the name was, third class is a very derogatory term. Even the name was given third world. Unaligned countries, Huntington said that they have no stand. They are opportunist people, as per Huntington. Okay, and this is the war of civilizations. Huntington has divided the world into 8 major civilizations. 9, but 8 are active. He's beginning with Western civilizations, headed by the leader of Western civilization is America. Western Europe, liberal democratic brand of the world. Then he's talking about within America, that's Latin American civilizations. They're separate. And he talks about it, swing civilization, that it will not stand the test of time. It's a swing civilization. Latin American, Brazil, Mexico, something like that. They will not tell. Then he talks about African civilization. Huntington is talking about African civilization is a confused civilization. Very interesting. He says it is a confused. And when in the later chapters he is giving the core and periphery civilization, there he is explaining how it is confused civilization, because Africa have a history. On the one side, classical example of confused civilization is South Africa. Okay, they are the whitest, are they black? What is this is confused, because what Frantz Fanon said, white mask and black faces. So in that way, even Huntington called it confused civilization. And then Huntington talks about Islamic civilization. He said that Islamic civilization is not national, it is multinational in nature. And there is, although in one way, there is no single country who can act as a core. He's talking about civilization at the periphery, civilization at the core, and civilization where alliance can be possible. He's not talking about there can be alliance can be possible, but there are certain fault lines which will be better lines of the future. Okay, and here he is talking about Islamic civilization needs a core. And but when he said there is no state which can play a role of core, but in its 4th chapter, he is talking about Turkey can be that state. But Huntington is suggesting that Turkey have to reject Ataturk's legacy more authoritatively.
What was that Ataturk's legacy?
Ataturk was obviously there is an important question. Who was Mustafa Kemal Ataturk? Mustafa Kemal Ataturk was a person who abolished an institution called Khilafah in the so-called Ottoman Empire in 1923. 1917 to 1923 was the time when Ottoman Empire was almost dying. Okay, just like at the same time Czarist regime was replaced by the Lenin in Russia. Russia became communist. Czarist regime was thrown out of power. Same time, the new young Turks, the radical young Turks, dislodged Khilafah, and Ataturk was the most secular. Here, the book mentioned that how secular he was in its later chapters. That he was saying that even the so-called Islamic prayers, even Azan should be given in Roman. Even Quran should be from Latin and Roman script.
उसका क्या मतलब हुआ?
The intense secularization, but that make Turkey a tinge towards Europe. Okay, but this Huntington is saying that Turkey can play important role, but it has to reject the Ataturk's legacy.
आज की कोई resemblance जो
I will come when I conclude it. I will come what today's resemblance of this, and then he talking about Cynic civilization, Chinese civilization, very much kind of giant dragon, rise of dragon. All people know, and he's also talking about Hindu civilization, which is a melting pot type of civilization. He's talking about Hindu civilization, also a kind of melting pot civilization, where all people come together and they don't have a kind of centric or concentric definition. Okay. And then he's talking about Orthodox civilization, very important civilization, where he has talked about Russia. The Russia is the higher a leader of the Orthodox Christian Europe. And here he is talking about Russia is the successor of Byzantinians. Okay. And Byzantinians were the one of the wing of Eastern Roman Empire was the Byzantinian Empire. Okay. And after the Constantine, the 320 AD something, and after that from 323 to almost 1453, when Byzantinians were dislodged from power by Ottomans, there was a kind of Orthodox Christian world. So he's talking about Russia, and he's also talking about minutely Japanese civilization, and he's also giving hint of Buddhist civilization. But after that, he's talking about just like there was a cold war between capitalism and communism, future there will be a war between Islam and West. He's talking about, and here people are confused with Huntington. He talks about only Islam and West. He said that on one side, but at the same time there will be a war between Islam and Cynic civilization, China, and at the same time there will be a fight between Cynic civilization and American civilization, and then Orthodox civilization. There will be a war in Hobbesian nature. In Thomas Hobbes said, there will be a war of all against all. It will be like that. Okay. It is not like that. It is some people say misquoted him. It is Islam versus West. No, there will be a war of all against all. If you read all the pages of the book. So then, if you proceed further, in his building theory, his building just in the first era of New World politics, how it looks like. He said that I told you, in this new world, local politics is the politics of ethnicity. Local politics is the politics of ethnicity. And ethnicity, you know that we Muhajirs, we Pahadis, we Gujars, we Salvaks, we Baloch, something like that. And global politics is the politics of civilizations. Okay. And the rivalry of the superpowers is replaced by the clash of civilizations. Okay. And he's also talking about the way in post-Cold War, culture was divisive as well as unifying factor. Culture can be divisive. Sometimes it can be divisive, sometimes it can be unifying factor. People separated by ideology in post-Cold War will be united by the culture. And he's giving examples of how two Germanys who were divided by the ideology, they got united. Two Koreas who were divided by the ideology but unified by the culture, they will be together. And he's also giving example of several Chinas. Hong Kong was not the part of China by then, and he's talking about that they will be one. And today Taiwan is a kind of China, nationalist China, and People's Republic of China even claiming Taiwan is a part of China. Okay. Culturally, ideologically, they are completely different. Okay, and he's also talking about how people who were different by culture, समझने की बात
Who
है,
are different by culture.
who were different by culture but similar in ideology got divided.
For example.
For example, he's talking about Yugoslavia.
Okay.
He's talking about Soviet Union divided into 17 independent states. They were united by ideology but different by culture. They got divided. He's talking about Bosnia. He's talking about Sudan. He's talking about Nigeria. He's talking about Ukraine. He's talking about same things will come in the South Asias. So he's proceeding further. He's talking about now is important. Why identity is important. How to construct an identity. Wilkie Mulaka is very important in when he gave a theory of multiculturalism. He said, who am I? Now, Huntington will also talks about how this identity is surfaced and constructed. He says, first things, maps and paradigms. Do you know the very important politics between our country and the China on the McMahon lines, on the Durand lines,
Okay.
on the Afpak borders? Okay, the maps are not actual scientific cartography. It is constructed. So people will claim on the basis of maps, this is ancient greater Israel, this is greater America, this is greater Russia, this is greater China, Middle Kingdom complex. On the basis of ancient maps and on the basis of his quoting Thomas Kuhn here, the age of scientific revolution, the paradigms will be set up. That look, you belong to us. You may like us, you may hate us, but you belong to us. You can't go far. You can't go somewhere else. You have to, your reality will be journalized. Your reality may be perceived. He's talking about how this will be developed, and there will be a relationship between cause and effect. That look, your downtroddenness is because you are aloof from your culture. Your backwardness is because you don't believe to the Anglo-Saxon values. You don't believe to the cynic values. You don't ascribe to the cynic values or other values. Then he's putting a outward attack here in this page. He's talking about attack on the so-called idealism of one world, or so-called Francis Fukuyama's end of history. As I told you, Fukuyama said that when communism ended, he celebrated that liberal capitalism won, and there is no alternative before liberal capitalism, liberal democracy. And he said, end of history. And Huntington saying that history can never be ended in chronological sense, obviously. Can you end the history in chronological sense?
No.
But Huntington is saying that I'm not criticizing in that way, because even Fukuyama never said that end of history in chronological sense. Okay. Fukuyama said end of history in teleological sense. It's a methodological tool. I would like to explain. Teleology means the science of purpose. And he is saying that history will never end. Fukuyama saying history will never end in chronology, but history have ended with teleology, that it has achieved its purpose. Just like Hegel said the march of God on earth means history ended. In teleology. Just like Karl Marx said that advent of communism, stateless society, history ended. Okay. In this pattern of theology, Francis Fukuyama said that history has ended, and last man to survive is America, and there is no alternative. He is saying that, I'm quoting Clash of Civilization, what he's saying about Fukuyama, that end of history thesis advanced by Francis Fukuyama, we may be witnessing. Francis Fukuyama argued the end of history, that end of history in what way? The mankind's ideological evolution ended. Some people we talks about, is there life after death? He's talking about, but he's talking about there is no life after democracy. End of ideological evolution. And universalization of Western values means liberal democracy is the final form of human government in this world. Full stop. But the question mark of clash came, that no, never history and even in theological sense. That rival forces, rival powers, rival brands of government, rival institutions, rival structures keep on coming, and they will set up their own discourse. And he is giving examples that despite the Berlin Wall has been gone, Despite the Czechoslovakia has achieved its independence, despite the Ukraine, very much important, and I would like to say, I would like to quote that point. I would like to quote. This is the highlighted point, saying that look, communism ended and almost all Eastern European countries go for liberal democracy. But he's saying that it will not survive because on the basis of civilization, on the basis of culture, there will be more invasions. And in 1993, today we are having unfortunate incident at the Ukraine Russia war. But he's saying in 1993 that with this statist approach, there will be a possibility of Russia Ukraine war.
He is saying it in
1993. 1993. Although I'm not justifying it, but I'm saying the analysis, point of his research, that the possibility of Russian-Ukrainian war will be a civilizational war.
Yes.
Yes. And although it may minimize the conflict, but instead, there will be the possibility of Ukraine splitting into half.
Okay.
And today, Russia is not claiming whole of Ukraine. Russia is claiming only that part of Ukraine which is Russian culturally.
Okay.
Okay. A separation which cultural factors would lead one to predict might be more violent than the Czechoslovakia and less bloody than the Yugoslavia. That is very much, very much poetic, and you can say that prophetic in that way. When this book was written, sir, people say it is controversial, it is this, it was not, it was obviously hype, but people don't give much importance to that. But after the global war on terrorism, this book got attention. That look, he has said something like that.
Yes, something.
After in Jasmine Revolution, people said that look, he has said something like that.
Jasmine
The Arab Revolution. The Arab Revolution against, it was anti-westernization. That the power belongs to the people, should be given to the people. Okay. Just like Egypt started, Syria started, other countries, although it was not a whole inclusive revolution, but Jasmine Revolution was a ray of rejectionism to the Western liberal values in that way, okay, to be precise. Okay. And he's saying that now, continue that. And what will do about 184 states? Now, today we have more than 193 almost. He's talking about 184 states. You can't claim these nation states. On one side, they are completely different nation states, but there will be civilizational blocks of all 184 states in the first chapter. And this will, when there will be blocks, there will be sheer chaos also at the same time, because there will be no standard definition of who belongs to whom at the initially building stage of civilizations, because there is no fault lines yet, there are no civilizations, there are second and third chapter. Okay, there will be sheer chaos, like who am I? And sheer chaos will search for a definition, and definition will come not through idealism but through realism. Realism will surface, and realism will give more primacy. What is realism? Realism means state is the main actor, conflict is inevitable, national interest is more primacy, states morality and personal morality are different. This is what realism states, and this is how the chaos will be, to somehow minimized, if not ended completely, minimized by adopting the tool of realism and the statist approach. And then there will be kind of blocks, and these blocks, and this is how the first lecture of its kind is the new era in world politics. In the very first chapter, he gave a world a shock, and we can continue it in the second lecture, civilizations in history and today. Then we go to the third chapter. But if you want to give me any question in this first chapter, kindly give, or even you can also give me any kind of any question, please. One or two or any question in the world of politics, please. And critically also, one thing I would like to, then you, before you put question to me, I would like to say this book has been called by Edward Said not as a clash of civilization, but he is saying that this is clash of ignorance.
For example,
because he is saying that is it necessary always that civilizations, obviously civilizations are there, no one can reject the existence of civilization, but is it necessary that there will be a zero-sum game between civilizations, that war of all against all? is there, he has kept no scope for the alliance of civilizations.
Okay.
There can be alliance of civilizations possible, that we can conclude it in the concluding, maybe we can critical appraisal. And second, he is also talking about it's a clash of ignorance, because he is saying that he's building his theories. Just I told you, Huntington used deductive method. There is a methodology. While
What is deductive method and what is inductive method?
sir, I would like to say, in the field of logical research, in the field of whenever you're writing a book or you're writing any piece of paper, in the field of social sciences, two big methods are used: deductive method and inductive method.
Yeah.
Okay. Deductive method is somehow subjective.
Okay.
Inductive method is somehow, if not completely, but somehow objective.
Objective.
Deductive method means you have already conclusions in your mind, and now you are writing a book just to prove the conclusions which are in your mind. Okay. It means it is full of bias. Inductive method means you kept your mind empty, you just do research for the sake of research, and you met truth in between. You don't have the advanced truth, you don't have the initial truth. So those who are saying that at least research must be objective, research must be coherent, research must be precise, they suggest for the utilization of inductive method. But there are shortcomings with inductive method also to some extent. But here, the point of discussion we can confine with it only that honestly you can say inductive method is almost near to the truth, near to the objective truth, if not completely. But deductive method, although it has some, there are some values also in the deductive method, not only vices. But here, because clash of civilization, the purpose is just to alert yourself that there are so many civilizations, you need to finish them, means he is putting Hobbesian state of nature at the international level.
Okay.
That is my understanding of it. He's putting Hobbesian state of nature, where there was a localized war of all against all, where life was solitary, where life was nasty, where war was not feared rather than celebrated. And he is putting Hobbesian state of nature at the international level, and also acting with the way. And also the Foreign Affairs is a journal. It is under the Foreign Ministry in America. It's a research journal.